Congratulations, everyone, on your Emmy nominations. And I thought we should start with a bit of an icebreaker since Catherine is the newbie here. She received her first Emmy nomination, which is very exciting. You guys are all veterans of what that feels like. And I thought, Patricia, we should start with you because I could not ignore the fact that this is a milestone year. You received your Emmy nomination and you won for Medium 20 years ago, this
Wow.
which which, as Catherine said, changed, the television landscape for women. It was Alison Dubois was just a revelation, and I loved that performance so much. So, if you could offer a piece of advice to Catherine as a newbie to what it feels like, or something you wish you knew about receiving this kind of recognition as you're sort of, a month or a little bit more away from the Emmys, what do you wish you knew about this time?
Well, as Catherine pointed out on our pre-chat, we met many years ago, and then I know many people who've known Catherine for many years, and she's got her head screwed on, and she's worked her butt off to get to where she is today. Like, I'm so thrilled for you to be being recognized right now. And in this time where you're in full flower as a woman, ready, you know who you are, you know what you want to give, you have no apologies to anyone. And so just, yeah, enjoy this moment. It's sort of, I look at it because I was always uncomfortable being girly, getting dressed up, going to these things, even photo sessions. Like, I'm not a model. I don't know how to do that. I don't have a character behind. I don't like this, they're gonna judge what I look like. And now I'm just like, oh, this is like the high school dance.
Yes,
Yeah.
prom.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
I never got to meet Parker, but I've always wanted to meet Parker. Now I
Mhm.
can, and
Yeah, exactly.
and Natasha, and
Yeah.
everyone gets to be together and just celebrate work. So just enjoy it. Don't take
Thank
anything too
you.
seriously and just have fun.
I have to say, one of the, it's like this is like half the show. I didn't wear any makeup. I had a black eye. That
Hmm.
is it's so freeing. Like, I think I
Hmm.
used to feel way more self-conscious having my picture made or, at events or stuff like that. Now I'm like, I really don't care that much. I do it and then I just go. It's like it's the gift of the show is that it really does take away your self-consciousness because we have very little lighting and sometimes not much makeup, and we just do it. It's nice to not feel that that's you, as we were talking before the show, like, to grow out of being valued for your looks is one of the nice things about aging as an actress.
I also feel like it's kind of oh, sorry.
No, no, you go.
It's always, for me, it just feels like such a paradox of wanting to hide, but also doing something that everybody sees. You're
Mm.
very exposed. So I get like, I get so into being all cozy and a little mouse with my character and my little, you know, homework and in Thailand we all just like lived these parts. We worked so hard for so long, and then it's like it comes out and it's just like exposed, right? And then
Yeah.
you're like, oh my god, like it was so internal, and then it's just like shared. I've never gotten over that. I'll always want it to be kind of private. Like I
Yeah.
wish it was like a VR kind of thing where it just wasn't shared sometimes. I love that it is, but do you know what I mean? Like
We
I
had
kind of I like hiding and being the character, and then you're like, oh, there it is, and I'm kind of like, oh, what did I do? And like, oh, this is so embarrassing, and I just get like very Moon and Gemini about it. Like I'm two ways, I like try to find the balance, but I'll always be that Libra rising. I don't know, but it's a strange, wonderful journey path being an actor. It's an actress, especially. Yeah,
I
it's a
remember
thing.
when we had guest stars coming on, like, after we aired while we were still shooting the first season.
Oh
And then
wow.
suddenly we had guest stars that had seen it. It was very affronting.
Mm.
It was like someone had gone in your closet. I was like, who are these people? Like, we got out of our secret world. It felt really strange for people to be commenting on it.
And Carrie and Natasha, do you have a response to Parker about, I saw you nodding your heads a little bit about just about like what an immersive experience that was. And you kind of go away and you have this experience. You're filming this thing in this very specific part of the world with only with each other. And then you leave, it airs, your show is a certified cultural phenomenon and it becomes this other thing. How do you feel about that? And do you respond a little bit to what she said of like just nesting and forgetting about what everyone else might think or see when they or feel when they watch it?
Mm. Yeah, I mean, it was very strange, and having gone through it season one, it was night and day because when we did the first season, we were just like, we shot 2020 during COVID, pre-vaccination. So we were just like, we're alive and working. Like the bar was so low. I know we made it. And so to go from that to watching season two, like the fire got stoked, and to walk into season three with that kind of weight, it was lovely to be sort of tucked away in our own little world because I felt safe from, living up to any other expectations other than our own. And but yeah, when you crawl out of that sort of cave of having, been sequestered, at this version of theater camp that is so weird and strange, and the world sees your work, it feels, you feel a little naked, but I think for me, it was just a joy to see everyone's seeing the result of all of that sort of incubation. And it's a wild ride. It's unlike anything I've ever done, professionally.
Mm-hmm.
Carrie, I mean, obviously, I would imagine you just focus on the work, but did you feel that pressure or that weight to join something that had all of this weight behind it?
I was aware that a lot of people wanted to do it, and I was grateful that I got to do it.
Yeah.
But I also was, I learned a long time ago that you can't control how something is received. You can only control the experience that you have, because that's where our lives get lived. The audience sees 6 days in a resort, but it was at least 6 months of our lives. There was a lot of life lived in that time. And for me, it was a life lived away from my husband and my children, who never saw what my life looked like there. I was so unmoored from my actual life. So when the show came out, I was back in my life, in the best place I could be, with no friends and no outside influence, just like me with my husband in the basement. So in some ways, I felt very protected from the reception of the show in the world. Like at that point, I didn't care. I'd moved on to the next thing, but I'm looking forward to seeing everyone, But I just,
But you went right into Gilded, Carrie, right?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, 2 days later. Yeah,
like
2
a
days
day
later.
later.
Yeah, 48 hours. And my kids were like, "Where are you going? You just got here." So it was a long year for my family. It was really about surviving that.
But I love what you said about, well, first of all, I love what you said about having to stay pale while in Thailand. But I love what you said. You got to say, as an actor about how you were able to just focus on the performance, and you haven't had that in a really long time because you were able just to be, be Lori, and without making the kids breakfast in the morning, without having a conversation with your husband at night, which all of those things are wonderful and amazing.
Yeah.
But you got to just be Carrie and be
So
Lori.
few women who have young children get to take 6 months away from them. And while it's complicated, I also recommend it. I mean, female autonomy it's an interesting question. I mean, the cognitive load of motherhood is very high. And so you will never be 100% present in your job ever again. And so in some ways that was the real gift of it. And I tried to appreciate that and not just walk around feeling guilty about it.
Yeah. And
I had the same
Catherine, you
thing.
raised your hand, yeah.
I have a 34-year-old, but I also have an 11-year-old. And
Wow.
she was already enrolled in school. I had like 2 weeks between getting the job and moving back to LA to do it. And they stayed behind in Atlanta. And I actually just dove into it. I thought, I'm not going to feel guilty. And it was like, oh my God, just the luxury of that, like just not having to worry about anything else. And so I just took, I went to the spa a lot, the Korean spa, and I just got to work on my lines. I was like,
Yeah.
oh, this is what single people feel like. You know, like the idea that you could just decide, what do you want to do? You know, just what do you want to do? And you don't have to cook for anyone. I have stopped doing a lot of things that I did before this job. Now we've all moved back to LA, but I don't cook as much when I'm working. I don't do as much when I'm working anymore. I kind of took care of myself so well in the first season of this, and this show's super rigorous that
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, I'm putting that first. I'm putting my instrument and myself first, and
Mhm.
kind of letting things like cooking and fall by the wayside, laundry.
I
I
want
have to say thank you to the partners.
Yeah.
Yes,
Also, it's really beautiful when you're supported like that, and
yes.
to be able to do your work, and the wheels don't fall off.
No, I'm lucky I'm married to an actor, and we go both ways, and it's very supportive in that. I like that.
Yeah,
Thank you
let's
for saying
let's
that.
let's stay on that for a second because you guys gave me the perfect segue. I was going to ask that a little bit later on, but you're all supported by teams, and I think a lot of actors when they're starting out, they may not understand, and it becomes this sort of steep hill to climb of like, how do I get an agent? How do I get a manager? How do I get somebody? And also then how do you get a team that supports your goals and so that you're moving as a team towards things that Catherine, I know I watched an interview where you said it, there were a couple things where your team was trying to get you offer only and instead of wanting to go audition for something, and then when you got this, the audition was crazy. First of all, just talk a little bit about, maybe we can just go around the room and see, how do you work with your team, and have there ever been challenges or that you've had to overcome, and how did you do that, whether it was for a specific project, this one, or for something else?
I'll let
Natasha,
someone else lead.
Natasha, looking at you.
Oh, yeah, no. Forming a team is hard. And I think for me, I'm a very specific person. I'm neurospicy. I have ADHD, anxiety, and depression, triple threat. And for me, for a long time, I tried to be this needless wonder and take care of everything myself because I didn't want to be a burden to anyone. And I disabused myself of that notion where it's I needed to be able to understand that it's a strength to ask for help and have a team that can support the dreams that I'm working to achieve. And especially when I've already eclipsed the dreams I had for myself when I was younger. So now this reimagination is happening. And so it's like, I also have to reimagine my approach, where so much of my journey to get over the earlier dreams, it was a singular, solitary journey. Oh, gave a thumbs up to myself.
I give you one
You have to always be your own cheerleader. But yeah, I have agents. I had a manager for 13 years, and who I still love, but am reassessing my team in terms of getting new management. And you have to always make sure that they're earning their percentage, is how I look at it as well, because they are commissioned off of what you make, and you want to make sure that they're a value add and that they are supporting that additional weight. And I'm single and I have two dogs, and so it's also just like making sure I have someone to watch them and like sit, house sit. There's so much of that I didn't anticipate in this journey, especially when you don't calculate leaving your house for 5.5 months, to go to a different country, and you still need to have things set at home. And it's a lot of recommendations. I'm sure the actors are like, well, how do you find them? I really try to find people who are vetted and like other people have had good experiences with them, and always try to meet with the team and people that I'm working with in person. I like a vibe check and look in their eyes and make sure that there's light behind them. And I call, get references for everyone and this is my managers, agents, everyone. I make sure that they've had interactions with people that I trust. And yeah, it's a slow process. I think asking the right questions to build your team is important.
I'm going to give you another thumbs up. Great answer.
Thank you.
Patricia, I'm just gonna call them out because I know them personally, and I've been around Molly Madden and David DiCamillo for many years, and with
Yeah.
in your presence as well. And they've just, I feel like you guys are the quintessential team together, and the bond goes beyond what jobs they get for you. Talk about how long it took to feel that with the three of them or the two of them.
Well, I went to them very early on. My son was a baby. He's 37 now. So we've been together 37 years. And there were times where I was just starting my career. And I get an audition, and there were times where I couldn't find a babysitter. And David would be like, drop that baby here and we will watch it. I'd be like, no. It ended up being fine. My mom was available. And then there was a time where I was really broke, and I was like, I have to quit this. I just got a job as a waitress. Thank you for everything, but I have a baby I got to take care of, and I just can't afford to do this anymore. And he was like, no, I will write you a check, Patricia. I will give you money. And I'd really not made money. So that was kind of a real vote of confidence from him. And I literally was going to start this waitressing job the next day. And of course, all the waitresses were actors too. And then I got a call that I got this part that I just auditioned for. So I called them. I'm sorry, I don't need the job, but I got a part. And they were like, hey, good for you. But so I've been with them a long time, and there's times where we spar over material. Like, I didn't like it. I liked it. You liked it? Why'd you like it? But I really respect their opinions, and I don't always agree with them at the end of the day, but they have definitely won me over certain times. And I think them too. So I think that's important to have a relationship like that where you trust your team's taste. Because there was a moment like around True Romance where it was like I could have really gone the trajectory of try to be in every big movie, be the girl in all those movies. And I really wanted to work with filmmakers like Sean and all these different people. I didn't necessarily want that career. So they were supportive of that. And they would say to me, like David would say as an agent, I'm going to say this movie's going to make a ton of money. Is it good? No. So as a film lover, I'm going to tell you that little script is great. And that part's great. It's much riskier and maybe no one will see it. But so just to be able to have somebody that's aligned with your values and your idea of your career. But also, I got to say, there used to be a lot more little agencies. And I do think there's probably maybe some money to be made in people opening little agencies because it's really hard for people to start out. It's really hard. I've watched a lot, and I've recommended a lot of great actors that I know that don't have representation to different people. And I haven't had a lot of luck in getting them help like that. So I don't want to like poo-poo anyone's dream, but it's okay. Also, you don't have to have your dream team from get-go.
Yeah.
You gotta make sure they're not a creep, but build up, you can build your career. And that might be the right person for you the whole time. You never know.
Carrie and Parker, Catherine, have you guys ever sparred with your teams over material, or have you ever,
Yeah. Can I tell you something?
Yeah.
I did one of the first readings of Killer Joe.
Oh, wow. The film.
And
The
your
play.
husband was friends with my boyfriend at the time, this guy named Robert Knott.
Uh-huh.
Robert, cowboy rider boyfriend. And I loved Killer Joe. And this agent I had at the time passed on that when it came down my pike, not knowing that like 10, 15 years ago, I had done a reading of it.
Oh,
with
wow.
Mackenzie Aston, who was actually just on the bed. No. Yes, him. And we were both really young. He was really young. He's younger than me. He must have been like 17 or 18. I was furious. And actually, that kind of dominating, controlling behavior is why I didn't stay with that agent in the long run.
Yeah.
It kind of led to, it's like to not even tell me what I was up for or what was coming across my way, particularly from, I know it was a long time ago, but, it's an auteur, it's a piece of artistry, it's not you know, they didn't pass on the Red Shoe Diaries, if y'all even know what that is, but you know what I mean? It's like,
Yeah.
so yeah, that was a big one.
Hmm. Cool.
Carrie,
And if I didn't illuminate that, Tracy Letts wrote it.
Yes, he
The-
sure
Yeah,
did.
and so
the
there we
brilliant,
go.
Yes, thank you, Catherine.
the brilliant Tracy Letts.
Yes,
All I'll
indeed.
say about this is, you know, I came to this quite late. I didn't do TV and film until I was in my 30s. My early 30s is when I started, and I didn't know what I didn't know. And I always value people who appreciate the way I conduct myself, which is I don't really play business games. I just like to be really honest about how I'm feeling about material or whether or not I can make the commitment in time. And if they're like, yeah, but it's a good meeting, have a meeting, I'm like, that's fine, but I'm going to be really honest in my meeting about where I'm at. And so for me, the most important thing was finding people who could respect that I wasn't going to hide my intentions in any kind of scenario. And that's, you know, just the Midwesterner in me, maybe. And I also have changed agents a few times, just like as you would expect from a boutique agency in Chicago all the way up to one of the sort of big three, I guess. And that's just kind of an organic process. You know, you move up when you can. Those spaces happen in your career because you're really only as good as the opportunities you have access to. And I think, Patricia, that's a great point. I think there should be more sort of boutique developmental agencies because it's so hard. Young actors looking for advice on this, it's changed. The landscape has changed so much from the days we used to send our headshots and resumes every few months to every agency. You know, it's just not the same world.
Not the same world at all. And Parker, your career is so fascinating, and I know you've talked a little bit about just this kind of this what you're experiencing in the wake of White Lotus and how that sort of plays in with your career and how you've thought about your career. And I just wanted to see if you wanted to weigh in just about how you've navigated with your team on this journey that you've been on from, you know, this iconic indie darling to now on this wildly popular TV show.
Well, first one, like Carrie brought up something of the changing landscape, and it's maybe it'll go back to the '90s where, you know, when I was listening to all of you talk about the people in your life, and you know, I have this analogy where I feel like when I'm working on something, like when I was writing, I have to be like editing my pantry or mending these clothes or doing like another project. So like the life of an actor for me, because there's so much that's unfair about it. And there's so many games, you know, there's so much happening behind the curtain that we never see. There's like a whole Las Vegas going on. And I'm like, you know what? I'm not even gonna, I mean, I can barely count. When you brought this question up, I was like, I am just now wrapping my head around not being so independent and being able to like really listen to someone when they sit down across from me and not like empathize with them or like do some magical thinking or to be like, I don't really like business. You guys like take care of that. Like, so you can't, there are creative business people. There are people that are in my imagination, I want this time period to be like the 90s were. And I think being able to pick up your phone, shoot something, you know, stay an observer of your life, live your life, be creative in every aspect of what you're doing and observe and listen and be around like-minded people who lift your energy, who love your stories. You know, it's like, it's all, we're all part of it. I keep saying this thing that sounds kind of ridiculous. I'm like, we're all a part of it because I'm meeting managers too. I haven't had a manager for a while. I'm like, we're all the same bag of potting soil. You know, it's like once you have your like clump of family, like I was with David and Alex for a while, and I see them and I have tears in my eyes. I'm like, I love you, you know, but like, it's all kind of a part of the mix. And as long as you keep mixing it up, whether you're gonna write with your friends and create your own material, you know, and then with White Lotus, what was so fun is like the interaction with social media that people were quoting lines and, you know, imitating me and doing all this, like, that was pure joy. I'm like, that is it. That's what I'm so happy about this. So, you know, I still feel like I'm processing the whole trajectory of it. I mean, I haven't been home for more than 2 weeks since February because I'm a solo performer. I'm like following, I love staying with friends. I've been spending quality time with my friends, which I haven't done in a long time. And it's been a great time to reflect on a lot and what I didn't see at my young age and what I said no to or what I didn't deserve or what I was like what ran away from or didn't notice, like all of that. So it's been a really lovely time as a grown woman to revisit that time. And I feel it's coming. The '90s are coming back, and with that is going to be a new force of storytellers and a new form, hopefully. But I'm optimistic like that. I'm like, I want to see like, there are new forms to be made, and we're at the beginning of that. This is an exciting time for creative people. We are just at the beginning of a lot that's going to want what we individually have to offer and what we make as intimate storytellers, whether that happens live, whether that happens on the screen, whether it's a new immersive like city planning. Like I think of stuff all the time because I think it's such a strange and interesting time to be alive in. So I'm optimistic.
I just thought one more thing when you were saying that. There's a symbiosis with an agent and an actor because most artists are not, in any field of the arts, I've found most of my friends aren't great at advocating for themselves. They're not the greatest negotiators to get you paid. They, and when you start off, I think I know a lot more, even though it's shifting sands. I didn't know for many years kind of the broad strokes of like, wait a minute, how much money do they have for above the line and this kind of stuff? And what is the budget altogether? And kind of, I didn't even have the tools to be able to advocate for myself,
Right.
even if I could. So it's a really important relationship, I think, for artists. They don't want to have to be that person.
Mm-hmm.
I also, going on with what you just said, I think for me, it's just been like graduate work to really honor like my own insides about how I respond to material. You were kind of speaking to that a little bit at the beginning, Patricia. It's like I didn't really want to do that. And I always liken it. I always tell my husband, if you don't feel that way about it, just don't do it. And he says the same thing to me. Even if I could, it's like I feel like it's like having sex with somebody you don't want to have sex with, to like even to audition for a role that you don't really want to do. I don't know. My whole being just feels like, I don't know, it's just like grinding. And I think for me, that's the most important thing. I think when you're young and it's already hard to stand up for yourself, like you said, that you have people that honor your response to material, and that you value your own response to material. No matter if someone says you should do it or not, you're never going to shine at it if your insides hate it,
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's
doesn't
nice
matter.
to be in this position, like we all are right now, in this moment in time, to be able to choose material. But, I was a single mom at 20. I did a lot of turkeys, and I thank God for every single one of them. And I was like, thank you for this job. Oh my God, I can buy diapers. So, there's moments in our lives where we're like, I don't get to choose if the material's my dream. Right now I really gotta pay the rent around here.
Yeah, I I agree. I mean, I've done, Noah calls it wilderness work, like irrelevant work. And I'm like, honey, I'm a park ranger. Like I've done a lot
I
of
see that in you. That's
I've
so
done a
nice
lot
to
of
see
wilderness work. I'm a full park ranger.
Yeah.
But it's that thing. I mean, when my guts, like my inside, my guts, like just really don't want to do it. I won't do it, even then. Like, but you know what I'm saying? Just where something in you, just like,
Yeah.
it's so hard to. It's
But
just,
then,
I think that's the graduate work is being able to advocate for yourself as an
Yeah.
actress.
but also looking at the path of the actor and the material, like we went into like White Lotus and it really changed our lives. It was a big commitment in another country. And every job that, even if it's not the best part, you take it for the experience of
Yeah.
it, right? if you can, if you have kids, you're committed to your family more, but then you just keep like making and keep connecting. I have found that keeps my spirits alive the most. And where the material comes from, I mean, in my early days, it came from friends of friends, and that was so fortunate. I like to think that that's still happening in cities or online with how people can meet each other now so easily through the screen.
Just one thing to add, I think, make no mistake, the being able to say no to something is a privilege. And I think so often in the early parts of my career, saying yes to things that may not have been, that spoke to the artistry inside of me. And it's just like, I need to pay the bills or that sort of thing, of course. And of course, there are those things that even if I needed to pay the bills, I'm not going to debase myself. So there's always that balance. But I think that as I have gotten farther along in this industry, I audition that privilege and realize, okay, it's something that I can do. And I think just speaking from a BIPOC perspective, it can be really difficult to use your voice and say no and feel like you have the ability to address your character's needs. And those are risks you have to take to make sure that you let those in charge let them become aware of your agency and your willingness to stand up for your needs. And I will say with Mike, season 1 of White Lotus, I didn't audition. I just like had a Zoom meeting with him per my agents. And I read the script and I had concerns about Belinda. And I told my team, I was just like, I'm saying yes, but it would be a dream to sit down with him to infuse authenticity into the character's perspective. And Mike was over the moon to do it. And I wish more directors and writers that are at his level would do that, because we sat down and went page by page season 1 of Belinda. We did the same thing season 3. And he knows he's not a Black woman. So he's just like, yeah, let's
he wants to be.
Yeah, he wants to be. Working on it now. But I don't think I would have had the courage to say that to him had I not, in the more nascent stage of my career, took those risks to open my mouth and say, you know what, I don't feel comfortable doing this, or this feels stereotypical. How do we add nuance to this? This character doesn't feel like it's 10 toes down. So it does take courage to open up your mouth. And I do think that courage, especially for BIPOC actors, it can be really scary because you feel like there's no one else here that I can, lean to support me. But I think that's why I do it, so it's easier for y'all. You know what I mean? So like, know that when you do it, you're helping everyone else out.
And can we just say, How to Die Alone? You also created your own show.
That's what I'm saying.
That's what culminates in is you making that amazing show, and
talk about
from the top down.
Yeah, thank you, Carrie.
It's funny, Carrie said something also, and Natasha just said something about, I've definitely lost some jobs at meetings, pushing back on things like, you know what, the ending, it just falls off, or, I don't believe they would do this. Explain to me this. Like when you push back, sometimes it's like, oh, we're going to go another way, or we're not sure. It bothers them. So I mean, I applaud all of you, and I think it's hard to get here, but it's such an important part of the artistic experience to be able to work with somebody that you can say, let's make this better, or I don't know about that. Is that the right choice there?
By the way, I forget that I have a job to do here and ask some questions, because I've just been like stunned by everyone. Just what it was supposed
having a conversation.
It was supposed to be a conversation, and I could just sit here and listen all day. That was really beautiful, and so many things that I wanted to ask follow-up questions on. But I do want to just say, Carrie, thank you for pointing that out. Another thumbs up to Natasha for How to Die Alone.
Thank you.
Incredible. Can't wait to see what's next. Yeah.
Yeah, either. And this is a conversation for actors, but I can imagine that there's some managers that are out there listening now and want to meet with Parker and Natasha about possible representation. So alert to them. And then let's talk about the material, because that's come up a couple times. And you guys are here because you breathed life into material in such a brilliant way. And I'm just curious if you could talk about, like, what is your process? And I think a lot of actors want to know that. You find out you get the job, you get the script. What's the Patty Arquette process? What's the Katherine process? What's the Parker process? What's the Carrie and Natasha process? Like, when do you start? Is it a after the meeting with wardrobe? Did the accents come first? Parker and Patricia, I'm looking at you. And how do you know when you got it? So, like, just take me through the creative process and how that begins and where you go.
I don't really have one process because I like acting being very alive, and the material as I get older and you know your own kind of process, it kind of guides you. Like there were times where I did one experiment with a character where I chose different colors for different feelings, and then I would chart out and paint out scenes and then paint out my character's arc. And then there was another one where it was a period project. So I got like the Farmer's Almanac and I researched music from that time. And, it just really depends on the person. Like for Severance, I was looking more at a deeply indoctrinated long-term person in a cult-like corporate experience. So whether it's a spiritual cult or the military or a corporation, like what does that do to your emotions? What happened when your emotions came up when you were younger, since she's been in this her whole life? And what's the subjugation action that entity took upon you? And how can you subjugate someone else? What is the vernacular? And then what does success sound like to you? What does upper management sound like? So it was all these weird layers of many, many, many things. And then, spiritual guilt and shame and all of these different kind of layers of things, which are all interesting to me. Like Parker was saying earlier, I love research. I love that phase of things. It's like self-soothing, honestly. The chaos of my childhood was like, let me just go trip out and learn about this thing. And so I still do that.
Parker, you're
Yeah, that's so well put, Patricia. It's a gleaning process. It's an absorption process. It's like, oh, I get to be a sponge, and I get to, like, the materials like a composition, and I go from like, what does she look like from, the outside to the inside? What's the hair? What's the shoes? What's the sound? And the lines, Mike is such a brilliant writer, and he's so funny. So the sound, I'm from the South too. So I had a lot of different accents to pull from. So that was like very like math or something, coming up with like a sound. Or I also love like gestures, like the psychological gesture. And I started out as a dancer. So I like to kind of have these images, almost like I'm playing with dolls or something that I carry around with me like a little friend, and it's and then everyone else comes around. You have wardrobe, and you have all these different collaborators. I've never played a mother, so it was just like, oh wow, the mother is really shaped by her husband, the mother is shaped by her children. And it was this, she was omnipresent, but she was also kind of invisible. And I'd heard my friends who are mothers talk about an invisibility of their children, but they also have this kind of power. So in her, lorazepam haze, like how to like drift in and out of like someone, is she aware? Is she, how much is she perceiving? And so all these, until I was like, oh, she's in denial, and oh, that's what I'm playing. So all these like, like these human things. Like I love, grief and love, and where does the person have a heart? Where does the heart lie? And then I worked on this part once, and I went to this acting coach, Harold Guskin, and I just wanted to sit with him because he was kind of like a Merlin, and I wanted just him to read it so I could talk with him. I said, "Where's her heart? How does she feel?" He's like, "She doesn't have one. She's a monster." Oh, okay, you're right. Oh, you're right. I wasn't saying, like she's a horrible person. And she was this it was this indie movie called Price Check, which is a great script. And but yeah, so that was kind of it. The lines, I got to learn my lines front, back, upside down. And then it's like you branch off in the moment. You can come in if it's loose enough and the blocking is loose enough, then you can really play in the scene and take in your surroundings and play with those, and because you have the writing, but we all have different spaces that we exist in. Now the editing is very fast. Did you watch European films or older films, and you see how much time and space they take with the character? And so it's fun. It's so fun. I feel so lucky, and this has been great talking about it.
I mean, to me, it's just the moment I don't ever want to indicate.
Mm-hmm. You
That's
want to be
the
lost.
thing that's
Yeah, you want to
like,
be
"Oh,
free.
no, I would think I was just indicating. Cut that out. We have to go again. Oh my God.
Yeah, the shame, right? Yeah.
Like, oh, that's just, yeah. Unless, it'd be cool to do kind of, I don't know, an experimental project where you were really heightened indicating all the time.
Mhm.
That could be really interesting. But in general, that's a thing that would throw me out of my own
Of the world. Yeah, the
process
world.
completely.
Yeah.
What are you doing?
Yeah.
You're not in the scene. You're not listening to somebody else. Whatever background work you do, you want to get to the point where like I'm in the scene and I'm listening to you.
Mhm.
And if you start
Mhm.
yelling at me, my acting changes. My
Yeah.
character changes.
Hopefully, yeah.
Yeah, I'm not in this idea. I'm not working on it in a mirror. Like we're in this together.
We've all been there, but yeah.
That's what I like sometimes about the research. Like I did this movie with Billy Bob, and it took place in 1969, and I was supposed to have been a beauty queen. I was in my 40s when I did it, so like maybe in 1950. And so I went and looked at all the women's magazines from that time and all the home magazines. I mean, they were literally advertising to women, like, "Are you sure your vagina doesn't smell? It's 8 o'clock. Look at Karen. She sat at the party," literally stuff like that. Or these articles like that men were writing about women. And it was really interesting. Or like when I did this show, Katie Keene, where I played this woman that was like the head of Bergdorf's, basically. I watched every fashion video. And I sometimes feel like like every movie that I could find about all the designers, and about the creation of Bergdorf's and this and that. Because I sometimes think like you said about indicating, if I put all that information in there, I can just let it be in there. That's one of the things I like about it. But I wanted to say, like, I think it's like sometimes I have this theory that like the writers, I think that my subconscious hooks up with the writer's subconscious, and that I pick up stuff that's like kind of not on the page. Like, I don't know why. Like, I just thought that Dana's parent died. Like I had thought her mother died when she was in high school, and then they said her father died. I had this thing where she had lost a parent, and then they told me my backstory right before we started, and they were like, "Your mother died when you were 16." Like, I sometimes just think
It's
things
a
like,
psychic. Yeah.
yes. And like with Katie Keene, I mean, no one probably ever saw it. It's on HBO, but it was this beautiful kind of Miss Maisel-like show, like based on a cartoon from the 50s. And Gloria was like, it's Gloria Granville, and like her hands were always like this at the end of the cartoon. So, I got to walk like, like Gloria. Like I like I think it's the dancer in me where I kind of find that out. Or like I did this show like through my body, and like I did this show with Octavia Spencer called Truth Be Told. And truthfully, they fired someone and they didn't really have a new character, but they wanted to work with me. And so they just put this character, and they wanted her to be Southern because I'm Southern. And then I thought, oh, the last thing I want this character to be is flowery, or that thing that you do so well, Parker, that we know it's like that Southern thing can hide so much double entendre. But the person to me just seemed like really benevolent. And so I just chose to talk like, what's his name? Lucas Black, like that guy in that kid in Sling Blade. That's like, well, why are they doing that to you? So I just talk like that the whole time. You want Southern, it's going to be like this. Why, Poppy? And so, and I
It's
kind of
so
move like
fun.
like a guy. But the one thing I wanted to say about Dana was that two things, which is one, it came to me really early on that the key to her was humility. And I'm like, and I realized later that even like as the actor and as the character, and that it was kind of like anyone could say anything and anyone could yell at her or whatever. Like her dignity came from how she did her job and how she served, and she knew she was great at that. And so sometimes things like I trust my imagination, and I really like that dreamy part of creating a character where you just it's like a big sticky ball and things just come to you because you're in that world of it, right? And that you don't I'm not very cerebral. I'm more like visceral about stuff. But that accent I was like, I'm going to sound like I'm from New Jersey or just vaguely East Coast if I don't learn this Pittsburgh thing. And being from New Orleans and the South, Parker, people get it so wrong and they do this dead accent that no one even speaks in anymore, or like, oh my God, like
Yeah.
Foghorn Leghorn or whatever. And so, if I'm doing it like you, I loved your performance so much. It was
Yeah.
so delightful. And that accent was so delicious to me as a Southerner. I loved it so much. But so I just like out of respect to the people of Pittsburgh, really, I wanted to get it down. I just wanted to get it down. But to be honest, there's this saying like you don't have to use a screwdriver if you can use your finger, like sometimes a character kind of arrives to me like a suit, like, oh, this Dolce suit just fits me just right. And I think Dana just fit me, and I don't know why. I think she's a lot of people in my world, and I got the accent, but the rest of it, I didn't really have to work at her.
Mm.
That's so nice.
Yeah.
Did you, well, first of all, I also love that, and I feel like hearing you talk about the humility of that performance or that character, and I'm just curious how that factored in with receiving that letter from Noah Wiley that said, "Leave your ego, bring your creativity," which I thought was so beautiful to be in that environment and to ask everyone to do that, to show up that way when it is such a communal, immersive experience.
Yeah. So truthfully, we were talking a little bit about this before we rolled, and I was speaking to how I feel like Patricia just freed a generation of actresses in her performance and medium and being sort of unapologetically like 360-degree full woman in that role and not sugarcoating the whole thing. And I've played a lot of sex symbols, and I um feel like I would get feedback. We talked about this, like you weren't effable enough was why you didn't get the job. And so there was often like many, many layers of Spanx and, just this whole kind of thing. And I came up in acting before there was streaming television. And so I was the writer's unicorn. Like I was the pretty girl that was really weird. So I looked like the part that they could get the network to buy, but inside I was like them. But the network never wanted the pretty girl to be weird, right? And so I was always just in a kind of a, a weird relationship with my outsides when I was younger. And so being older is freeing, but also when he said that, I thought you can bring really weird. You can just let your imagination fly and just be in the moment in this role. And in my audition, I did some kind of out there choices, which were exactly how I would play the role if I got it. And I just felt like just play the role that way. And I did.
That was amazing. We're running short on time, and which kills me. So I wanna end with Carrie and Natasha because we didn't get to you about the process questions. And so and Natasha, I know you obviously collaborated with Mike on the script and really helped shape that performance. as a writer, I think that's even more of a profound statement since you brought that piece of yourself there, the creativity. But I'm curious, like, if you could talk about just, first of all, was there a moment that it clicked for you where you feel it was on the page, but what else helped inform how you brought Belinda to life?
Yeah, I mean, and I also just want to be clear, Mike is definitely the writer. Like he is responsible for Belinda. I was just glad that I was able to support his vision. Season one, Belinda was very internal, and there was so much going on in her head that she couldn't say because of her position. And I think moving through the world as a person of color, like in real life, we have to swallow a lot of blood. You can't say what you think all the time. And so that's exacerbated by being in a position where she's in servitude in a mostly homogenous environment. And so I related to her in that way. I thankfully, 20 plus years of therapy, I speak my motherfucking mind. She still didn't. So I was just like, okay, I had to go back to that point in my life where I felt trapped and really had a pretty vivid internal life with her season one, and really talked to Mike about code switching, which everyone does. And in Black culture, I'm going to talk real different when I'm just talking to my family versus, a guest at the White Lotus. And so there was a moment in the script season one where I'm on the phone with Zion, my son, and I was like, Mike, she's not going to say it like this. Like she's just going to she's going to let her guard down and she's going to speak truth. And so we rewrote the line where she's just like, yeah, this white lady gave me some money. And like, it felt like it was in the vernacular and it felt familiar and authentic. And so I really found a nice balance with her. And coming back for season three, actually, Carrie, I say this in a lot of interviews. I don't know if you remember saying this to me. You were like, when you go back to a character, it's like putting on a wet bathing suit. It's like weird, and you're
Like,
like,
it's mine.
but it feels a little off, and it'll feel much better once I dive in. And so I felt that season three where I was like, I put her on, and I was like, ooh, this feels familiar, but a little weird. And then when I got on set, I was like, oh, there she is. And it just felt like I was back with her. And the gift of season three, so much of what she internalized season one, she was able to express. So to me, it was just an extension of that work that I'd already done.
Carrie, we're gonna end with you.
Carrie, please talk about Fargo, because I loved you so much in Fargo.
That's so kind of you.
This, but in Fargo so much.
Well, pertaining to that, I'll say that I used to be a very cerebral actor, good student, straight A's, try to do what's right and good. And the older I get and the more work I've had the privilege to do, it's become much more outside in. So much more from the outside, like Fargo in particular was all like uniform, haircut, gun, accent. There you are. Gilded Age, similar. Once you put those clothes on and those hats, it's like, there you are. All you can do is screw it up. And also because I've said this before, but I have fewer time. I don't have as much time to prep anymore because of my family life. And so it's really just like me learning lines while I'm doing dishes. And so it's like, hopefully I've learned my lines by the time I get to set. And that's about all I'm able to do. Days, which is why good writing is really important. And I will say just one last thing, that I think there's a misconception about actors because you hear about like the most selfish and crazy ones, when in fact they tend to be some of the most like curious, like genuinely curious people I've ever known. And that's the secret. Just being curious is it.
And also kids are cheap dialogue coaches.
Yeah, I know. I'm afraid they're much better than me.
No dialogue, not dialect. I run my life with my daughter. She's so happy to get $10 an hour. I like it.
There's been a lot of compliments going today. And when was the last time you guys sent a voice note, a message, a DM to another actor just to say, God, I loved that. That was so beautiful.
I sent one to Jeff Hiller. I was so excited that he got nominated. I just thought I loved his work on that show. I just thought he was beautiful. I didn't know him.
Cold call, cold email.
My friend Maria Dizia, her time is coming. What an amazing
She's
actress.
amazing. I love her.
She's
so
amazing in
freaking
everything,
good.
isn't she? Incredible.
Everything.
Yeah, incredible.
I texted Ruth Nega, who's nominated, who I just met, who's a friend of my friend Rob, who I met in Europe.
Wow.
I love that.
Patricia?
So that's fun.
I had Brian Tyree Henry. I texted him.
Yeah, love him.
I love
God, he's
him.
good.
Yeah, I gave him some love.
I would just reached out to Coleman and she's not even have anything to do with this, Mariska. I watched her movie, so
I haven't
Oh,
seen
I'm
it.
looking
I
forward
hear
to
it's so
that.
say
good.
like, wow, beautiful job. You know,
Cool.
very moving story of her and her mom. And I mean, the
loved
weird thing
Coleman
about
in
me
Four
is I don't
Seasons.
I love everyone I work with, but I don't really talk to them after. You know, I'll bump into them. Hey, how's it going? But I'm not like a social person. I was a mom since I was 20. And then when my son was 14, I had another baby. So I was always working or with
Yeah.
my kids,
Yeah.
and I just wasn't hanging out a lot. So I love all the people that I know and have worked with, but I don't even have their phone numbers. I don't even know where anyone is.
We'll have to make sure we get to swap phone numbers today before we leave. But anyway, you guys, that's my time. I could do this all day. I
Yeah,
was so
that was fun.
guys just having the conversation flowing and the compliments flowing, and get ready to continue over these next couple of weeks. And I've spent a lot of time in the SAG-AFTRA Foundation comment section, just reading what people have to say. And there's so actors just there's so many compliments, and people love these conversations. So thank you so much. It's an honor to be here. And to quote the great Carrie Coon as Lori Duffy, I look at you guys and this feels meaningful. So
Time gives us
Me.
meaning.
yeah,
Hang in there.
yeah. So this was really an honor for me. So thank you guys so much.
Yeah,
Thank
this
you.
was so much
I'm
fun.
gonna
Pleasure.
hit all you guys up at the
Yeah,
Emmys and
see you
say,
guys
hey.
there.
Congrats. Let's have a
See you
drink.
there.
Yeah,
Have
for
a
sure.
drink.